China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil?
We have a bunch of countries to fix, like Switzerland, Brazil, right? It's got an issue. India. These are countries that need to really react correctly to America. Open their.
Welcome to Samvad. And without wasting any further time, let me introduce the speaker to you, a very illustrious speaker, Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary of India. And we are discussing the rapid downfall in the Indo-US relations and what it means for India and even US. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me again.
So from being America's strategic partner with whom US shared values, their words, not mine, interest and strategic convergence in the Indo-Pacific, to being the primary funder, that is what Donald Trump called India in the United Nations General Assembly, primary funders of the Russian war along with China, to fueling Russia's war, laundromat of the Kremlin, dead economy. I mean, all sorts of names being called on a daily basis. And all this has happened, this has happened in a matter of few months. Now, I feel, sir, for a student of literature, understanding quantum computing would be quite easier rather than understanding what has led to this decaying, shall I say, not exactly, maybe degrading of relations between India and US. And I would request you to help us understand this.
Well, it's very difficult to understand precisely why Trump has unleashed this barrage of criticism of India, and his own senior administration members have been targeting India. And this has happened after the visit of our Prime Minister in February this year, soon after his re-election, on an official visit, during which there was a lot of positive interaction between the two leaders at the personal level, and also if you look at the joint statement that was issued, many of the key achievements in India-US relationship during the Biden administration were reiterated. With change of names, the ICET became compact, the Indus-X became trust. In other areas, the positive understandings between the two sides on the geopolitical side were restated. And it was agreed that the bilateral trade would be raised to $500 billion. Now, when you have a target like that, you are looking forward to a major upgrade in trade and economic ties, which means investment by US companies in India, as well as certainly not hitting India with tariffs or erecting huge tariff barriers on the US side and hurting our especially middle and small enterprises, because the areas that he has targeted are in some senses, apart from being very politically important, are the creators of wealth in the country. So it's not as if initially he was guided by some kind of animus against India. Now, there is a view that if you look at this Project 2025, which is in a sense the Bible for the right-wing, MAGA administration, it does talk about problems of tariffs, dealing with tariffs, high Indian tariffs, etc., etc. And this has been also his own stated concern even during his first administration, when he began calling us the tariff king, and then withdrew GSP benefits as a pressure point, as well as imposed tariffs on steel and aluminium from India. So there is this little obsession that he's had, and how should I say, the Harley Davidson motorcycles became, in a sense, the symbol of his complaints on high Indian tariffs, etc., etc. But the point is that when our Prime Minister went there in February and all these positive developments happened, so in the background of concerns he has always been expressing about high Indian tariffs, but that didn't seem to stand in the way of looking forward to a very positive agenda. So what has happened? Now, it would appear that the proximate cause is this entire ceasefire business between India and Pakistan, where he took credit prematurely, precipitately for the ceasefire, which was very politically embarrassing for Prime Minister Modi and India, because it suggested two things: either that we had appealed to the United States to help achieve a ceasefire, which meant that we were suffering military reverses, or that we were pressured by Trump to agree to a ceasefire, and we yielded. In other words, while we had the winning hand, we folded our cards and agreed to what Trump was telling us, which again did not redound to the political prestige of India. Now, frankly, I also didn't believe that this man was so obsessed with the Nobel Peace Prize. I thought that, we ourselves have been saying that many of our prime ministers who sought to solve the India-Pakistan tangle, they had, Nobel Peace Prizes in mind. So it's something one has been saying about leaders who make peace moves, who make concessions, etc., that they have Nobel Peace Prize in mind. So one would have thought that maybe Trump was also motivated by that kind of a thing. But apparently the man is exceedingly serious about his eligibility for the Nobel Peace Prize, to the point of telling the Norwegian governments that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And he continues to talk about how many wars he has solved, the wars that never existed, 7 of them since the including India-Pakistan thing. Now, I think he got very piqued that India was denying him what would have been, from his point of view, a good ground for him getting the Nobel Peace Prize for helping resolve the India-Pakistan nuclear conflict, the dimensions of which he tried to exaggerate by saying repeatedly that these are two nuclear powers, and it was going out of hand, and he prevented a nuclear war. So he was actually giving even a more threatening dimension to the conflict in order to underline what a great achievement that he made because he prevented 2 nuclear powers from going to war. And Pakistan, on the other hand, since they asked him to intervene on their behalf, and then it has come out that by Ashik Dar, the Pakistani Deputy Prime Minister himself, who has said that he asked Rubio what happened to what you had said, Rubio had said about India and Pakistan meeting in a third place to resolve issues. And he said, and according to him, Rubio told him that India does not accept any third-party mediation and this and that. So this is what actually our position has been. Whereas Trump himself has been very keen, and this is another dimension, on mediating between India and Pakistan. He did this during his first term when Imran Khan visited him, and he blurted out saying that Modi has asked him to mediate between India and Pakistan, and he would love to mediate. And Imran Khan, of course, jumped at that and said, yes, of course, you must, and that kind of a thing. And of course, we denied that the Prime Minister ever asked him to mediate between India and Pakistan. So there is some obsession somewhere with regard to India-Pakistan issues. And then, as I was trying to underline, that he has this Nobel Peace Prize business in mind, which then the flatterers around him, the sycophants around him, are trying to consolidate in terms of his eligibility by creating the impression that he's been involved in solving other conflicts. So they get the DRC and the Rwandans to come to Washington and sign some paper, even though on the ground, I'm told nothing much has changed.
They're still fighting.
They're still fighting. So when it comes to Cambodia and Thailand, actually the ASEAN countries had intervened. But again, it's not difficult to engineer this. They got him to be the person who brokered peace between the two countries. Armenia and Azerbaijan, there has been a war, but the relations between the two countries are very, very different. In fact, they are supporting each other. In fact, and this is also interesting, the Armenian president, in a UN General Assembly speech, as well as the Azerbaijani president, both have proposed a Nobel Peace Prize to Trump, whereas they had a conflict, yes, but that conflict is no longer there. In fact, they become pretty close together. There has been absolutely no conflict currently between Serbia and Kosovo. And he says that he also engineered brokered a ceasefire there or resolved that conflict. So he's living in a world of illusions. I can even say he's a bit delusional, because point is that whatever he's claiming isn't rooted in reality. And if he keeps on hammering away with it, there is a question mark on his mental state. And this is not reflected only in this, but in so many other statements he makes. Now, other day when he was receiving the Turkish President Erdogan, and he said, he said, oh, you must take credit for sorting out Syria. For 2,000 years, you've been trying to get hold of Syria, and finally you've got it. And he says he's not the man who will take credit, but I'm telling him, take credit, take credit. But Turkey was nowhere near Syria until they conquered Constantinople in 1429 or whatever it was. And then in 1517 or 1516, they actually conquered what is today Syria. And he talks about a couple of thousand years of Turkey eyeing Syria. So he doesn't bother about facts. He has some vague ideas where he may have picked up from reading somewhere or somebody briefed him. He doesn't absorb it fully. And then he blurts out. He has supreme self-confidence in himself and the United States that he can do and say anything and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no price to pay. He's not bothered one bit whether other countries or mock at him because what he thinks is most important is his MAGA base. And they're totally, well, I'm exaggerating. I'm sure there's some literate people there. But I think they're totally illiterate geopolitically and otherwise. And they lap it up. Hey, a strong leader. And then, of course, the absurdity of it, Mayank, that he wants to claim the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's today responsible for an atrocious atrocious human rights situation in the Gaza Strip. He's totally giving political, diplomatic, and military cover to Israel. And the entire world is perturbed by this, frankly. Even the Europeans, his own allies, many of the most important countries, what have they done? They've gone ahead and recognized an independent state of Palestine.
True.
This is the extent to which they, as European leaders and their public opinion, feel that what is happening cannot simply be overlooked or justified, and that they have to take a position on this. And this man doesn't. And he's allowing Netanyahu to continue. Of course, we've got very good relations with Israel. I don't want to get into that. But the point is that he's doing this, in a sense, presiding over the most terrible human rights situation in the Middle East, and then claiming the Nobel Peace Prize because of some peripheral things that he may have solved or not solved. So I think, to come back to the question you asked, I think this is how it all began. And because he got very upset with India, so he probably in his mind decided that India needed to be taught a lesson. And since he's always been obsessed with India's high tariffs, and since as part of his overall policy, not necessarily directed at India, but at everyone in the world, including his allies, including Europeans, including Japan, including South Korea, on whom he has slapped high tariffs, he decided to impose high tariffs on India. 25% tariffs, all right, were high enough, but livable. Because if there's 19% on Bangladesh and something like that in the periphery of 25% on other competitors, we can handle it. But he went ahead and has imposed additional 25% penalty tariffs on India because we are buying Russian oil. Now, this has, of course, made the position, India's position, very difficult because the United States is our biggest economic partner if you take trade in both goods and services. And if that trade is hit, then certainly it impacts on us, whether it is 0.2% or 0.3% or whatever of our GDP, it does have an impact, and it can't continue for very long because exploring the alternative markets is not, may happen, but it'll take time.
Take time too.
And then we have to see which are the high consumption markets to which we can divert our exports. And China is not a high consumption economy. It's a very, very big economy, but China, in fact, is a problem for us. They don't open their markets. Russia is not a high consumption economy, and our exports to them is about less than $5 billion. Even if you multiply it by 200%, I mean, it goes to $15 billion. It doesn't help us. Europe is, and that's why we would be keen to sign an FTA with Europe. But, and here comes the other complication he has created. He's injected a political element into the tariff issue by imposing this 25% penalty because we are buying oil from Russia, which it is pure coercion. Why he's done that? Because just as he thinks that he can bring India to heel by imposing tariffs on us, he thinks that his entire project of ending the conflict in Ukraine would need him to generate pressure points on Russia, to bend Russia to his will. And one of the ways of doing this is to impose tariffs on the biggest buyers of Russian oil, India and China. Now, China is not able to do that, is not doing that, because China has not only resisted, but China has also hit back with denying certain critical things that America needs, rare earths or EV batteries or whatever, that rare earth magnets, things that the United States economy and the military need. And they have the capacity to generate pressure points on the United States itself indirectly in the Western Pacific. They've also demonstrated through their grand military parade that they cannot be trifled with, that they have acquired tremendous capacity to challenge America militarily, at least in the Western Pacific, if not globally. So he's hesitating. He's not imposed any tariffs on China, though he talks about it. Now, in order to generate even more pressure on India and China, without himself doing anything, he's asking Europe to also impose tariffs on India. And Europe, in part, has begun that by sanctioning some of our companies who are supposedly involved in commerce with Russia, not only on the
So
oil side.
has
also on
Europe
critical.
folded completely before him? Because it is a very big, as a market, even as a market, as an innovator, they are very big. But it seems to have folded completely before Trump.
Yes, the reason being that, when you have an organization of 27 countries, which then has to take decisions based on consensus, then how do you reach this consensus? After all, many of these big European countries have huge history behind them. Some of them have been very major colonial powers and at one time ruled parts of the world. They're now going to submit their decision making to Brussels so easily. Brussels is not a super government. It's an intergovernmental organization. It's not a sovereign government. So when they have to develop a consensus, then you have the Baltic states and Poland, who are doing absolutely America's bidding, who want America to remain in Europe because they don't trust the big powers of Europe, whether France or Germany, to give them security. They know that their security depends on America and on NATO. So they will push. They will push for America to give them the kind of political and military and security cover they need. And with the Ukraine war going on, they are feeling even more vulnerable. And the other leaders, whether of France or Germany, have also joined this bandwagon, anti-Russian bandwagon, by claiming that if Russia wins in Ukraine, then they'll attack some other country in Europe. And it'll be a major, major threat to Europe in the long run, meaning thereby that they can't do without NATO. They can't do without the United States. Even now, when they're challenging Russia and claiming that they'll continue to support the war in Ukraine for as long as it takes, they're still saying, and this lady, Kaya Kallas, said yesterday or day before, that we cannot continue this fight unless we have not continue, that for continuing this, we need the backing of the United States. So that's the reason why they are unable to take a cohesive internal position. There is a huge gap between the elites and the government and the public opinion in some countries. And at the same time, they don't know how they're going to get out of the trap they themselves entered into by throwing their lot entirely with Biden's policy against Russia and thinking that Russia could be defeated on the ground militarily with America's help, America's support that is vital for Ukraine. And now they find that Trump is stepping back, so they don't know what to do. So when Trump wants a deal with them, trade deal with them, they buckle under, they yield. In other words, Europe is in complete disarray. And that's how Trump has been able to extract so many concessions on them. Look at it. Uh, Denmark is part of NATO, and he lays claim to Greenland. And not only lays claim to Greenland theoretically, he sends his vice president there. And then the Danish government is saying that American agencies are working on the ground to condition the local public opinion in favor of independence and this and that. Trump is on record to say that the European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. These are the words he used. And Vance has been very harsh on Germany and on Britain, supporting the right-wing movements there, openly interfering in the internal affairs of his allies.
So has this got something to do with the team he has, the advisors he has? Because just before we started this recording, I was going through this post which says it's U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Now he says that there are some countries we need to fix, like India and Brazil. These countries need to react correctly to America. They need to open their markets and stop taking actions that harm America. And he's not the only one, sir. I'll extend it even further, because we see Marco Rubio, and I thought he was a very pragmatic sort of a person. He's guffawing away with Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif, whereas when he's standing with S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, he's very grim. And then even the NATO chief, he's talking about some imaginary talk between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vladimir Putin. So is this hubris? I mean, how exactly do we define this?
Because Trump has given them the lead. You see, when Trump himself, notwithstanding the importance of India in itself and the prospects India has in terms of becoming a much more important global power in the years ahead, already the fourth largest economy, shortly the third largest economy, huge market, lot of potential for consumption, because once the GDP grows and per capita income grows with 1.4 billion people, look at the potential, tremendous potential there is for India as a consumption economy, unlike the Chinese economy, of actually importing what would be necessary which is inevitable when you have a higher standard of living. So now once America gives the lead in targeting India, so we become, others also follow the lead. They know that bilaterally there is not that kind of price to pay, because the United States is in a sense trying to diminish our status and opening the field for people like the Rutte, the UN Secretary General, and you just quoted him to say that Prime Minister was talking to Putin to understand from him what his strategy is, because India is being subject to these 25% tariffs, as if Putin is in Putin's decision on the war in Ukraine will be influenced by the tariffs US has imposed on India. Now the point is that, as Putin has explained repeatedly, what is the position with regard to the issues that he has with Ukraine, with NATO's presence in Ukraine, the security challenges, existential security challenges that this poses to Russia, that under no circumstances is he going to accept NATO's presence in Ukraine. Now that fundamental position is not going to be changed or diluted because Prime Minister Modi tells him, please, I'm suffering, therefore you should not worry about your own existential problems. You should worry about my problems with regard to the tariffs. So this is ridiculous. But there is a kind of convergent pressure on us, led by the United States of America, in which the NATO fellow joins in which Kaya Kallas, she said the same thing, also joins in as the foreign policy representative of the European Union. So that is the reason why what you described is happening on the ground. It is to generate pressure on India. The Trump has also in record to say that 100% tariffs should be imposed on BRICS, and in the BRICS, the two countries that have been singled out for harsh treatment by Trump are Brazil and India. There are 50% tariffs on both of them. Now, in the case of Brazil, quite apart from the tariffs issue, there's a political element because he feels that his pal Bolsonaro, the previous president, is being maltreated. He's being hounded because he's now been sentenced to God knows how many years in jail through a court process in Brazil itself. And he's trying to punish Brazil on that account. So it's both the fact that the two countries, India and Brazil, he's also maltreated South Africa, incidentally, are members of BRICS. Plus, of course, specifically, they are not yielding to the economic demands of the United States.
So one final question, because we are running short of time. So a very important question, so I can't let it go. That with this stance of strategic autonomy, which India has been professing for a very long time under different names, do you see the possibility of India isolating itself diplomatically around the world? Can that happen?
No. You've seen that our foreign minister in his meetings in New York, in various ways, is asserting India's position. He has, apart from the speech he made at the UN General Assembly, which outlines all our concerns about the disruptions that are being caused, about the importance of the WTO, about the trade system that exists, the need to preserve it, about the needs of the developing countries, all the things he has underlined. Plus, he's convened a meeting of the BRICS countries. He's also convened a meeting of the Global South countries. So there is no stepping back from our traditional, how should I say, foreign policy positions, which are based on our leadership of the Global South, on our strategic autonomy, on raising all the issues that we've been raising even earlier, which are tied to our role in the world going ahead, of asserting our position, our national interests, and giving primacy to that, rather than bending to the will, to the pressures that the United States is generating. I think, given the fact that we are facing these challenges, 50% tariffs and all the pressures that are on us by the United States, we have not stepped back from our established foreign policy orientation. We are stressing that in the kind of meetings we held and the statements that were made. And the Prime Minister has gone ahead and said very emphatically, two things. One, that under no circumstances he's going to let down our farmers and our dairy producers and our fishermen. And he's now stressed Atmanirbharta and goaded the people to buy Indian products rather than foreign products. So one has to read between the lines. He's asserting India's national interest and the primacy we want to give to what we see how India should conduct itself both internally and externally. So I don't think that, yes, there is a problem. Let's not run away from it. Of course, there's a problem. We'll go through difficult times. There'll be pressures. But there's a relationship which you didn't ask the question. There's no time about what Trump is trying to do, needle us even more by showing off, exhibiting his closeness now to the Pakistanis.
With your permission, sir, and thank you for permitting me, I'm extending this talk because we are concluding at a very interesting position, the Pakistan factor. Now, apparently, Shahbaz Sharif, while speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, he took the name of President Trump and praised President Trump 7 times, whereas he mentioned Kashmir, the raison d'etre of Pakistan, only twice. And he also proposed the name of President Trump for the Nobel Peace nomination from the United Nations General Assembly. So it was all very surreal. Now there is a school of thought which says that Pakistan is being given a very transactional importance. It is not long term. India should not be very alarmist about this because United States is looking to end the conflict in West Asia. And it is looking for very small transactional arrangements with people who matter with countries who matter in the region. And they will pivot to India once they start pivoting to the Indo-Pacific. But what we see that China, they are hardly treating China as a strategic opponent, I would say right now, only as an economic adversary. How do you see this whole situation evolving?
I think with Pakistan, there always has been in the United States a view that whatever their differences with Pakistan, whatever the irritations of the past, whatever their complaints, whatever their realistic view of Pakistan, its involvement in terrorist organizations, and the damage that they have done to US interests in Afghanistan by sheltering the Taliban, Osama bin Laden, that United States cannot ignore Pakistan. Pakistan is a very major Muslim country, and it possesses nuclear weapons. Plus, it is also the seat of international terrorism. This requires the United States to engage with Pakistan. That's one aspect. The other is that there is a long there is a long history of in the United States and Pakistan working together on security issues, because Pakistan has been a member of all the alliances that the United States set up, and is a major non-NATO ally. Despite Osama bin Laden and everything else, they haven't changed that. Why haven't they changed that? Because they see it as an important country in the Islamic world. It is situated in a very critical area geographically. Whether they've been able to profit from it fully in recent years, that's a different matter. The fact is, it joins China, it joins Afghanistan, it joins Central Asia, it joins Iran, it joins the Middle East in an area in which the United States has a lot of interest. So they want to be able to use Pakistan as a partner or as a pawn in their larger strategy in this region. That if they're absent from Pakistan, then there's a void in the US Central Command. There's a void, strategic void for United States in this area. After a while, they're looking for something in Bangladesh because they feel there's a void there. But a much bigger void would be here if they were absent from Pakistan. And then let's not ignore this. Pakistan is a pressure point on India for them. That India has to go to the United States in order to exert some control over Pakistan. And India cannot ignore US role in Pakistan altogether. So the capacity for putting political security and other pressure by the United States on India is a lot. For example, let's say tomorrow they decided to give some arms to Pakistan, a fresh batch of F-16s or something else, or military aid. Look at the reaction in India. We'll do everything to try to stop this, work in the Congress, put pressure, activate our lobbies there, the caucus or whatever else, to say this shouldn't be done. So this is, in other words, they got India on the back foot by Pakistan being there as an instrument that they can use. Plus, and let's not forget that, the Russians believe, and probably not entirely wrongly, that this IS Khorasan, which is supposed to be active in the APAC region, actually is a CIA creation with Pakistan's complicity to put pressure on Russia and the Central Asians and the Central Asian states and through the Central Asian states on Russia. That remains a vulnerable point for Russia. It's got a huge Muslim population. And some of the recent terrorist attacks have been by Tajiks and others. So United States would like to have a foot in the game. Why do they want now to reclaim Bagram? After all, they suffered such a massive military setback and a strategic defeat in Afghanistan. So why do they want to come back? They want to fight the Taliban again. It is also, Pakistan is also useful for Iran. After all, some of the Jandullah, whatever organizations that are operating against Iran in the Balochistan, Iranian Balochistan, they're operating from Pakistani soil. Of course, there's a limit to which the United States tactically would exacerbate these terrorist activities on the ground, but because this can lead to a conflict and they'll have some other problems, but it remains a pressure point. It remains a pressure point. And then historically, they've always looked upon Pakistan to provide security to Saudi Arabia. It's a long-standing thing. Yes, in between Saudi-Pakistan relations developed some difficulties because Imran Khan was a bit uppity with the Saudi king. They refused to send their people to fight the Houthis in Yemen. And they also tried to, after our friend Mohammed bin Salman started modernizing and liberalizing Saudi Arabia, the Pakistanis and the Turks and the Malaysians wanted to set up an alternative Muslim body, kind of to assert the traditional Muslim values and resist these new trends, which would have had domestic implications for these countries. So, and this pact, notwithstanding some contradictions in it, but America lives with contradictions. They are behind this pact. They encourage this because it's burden sharing. That, like in Europe, they say, look, you bear the burden for challenging Russia. So here they are saying, in some senses, that Pakistan should also share the burden along with the Saudi Arabia and others to look after security and not be entirely put the entire burden on America. This way, they control the developments in the region. It's not as if all the chess moves have been thought out so much in advance that they can visualize how the game will end and how the king will be checkmated. It's not possible in geopolitics. But broadly speaking, this is the way that they can assert their primacy in the region. And that's why these things, Pakistan is a very useful element in all this. And finally, I'd like to say on this that if anybody says that this is to, in some ways, check Chinese influence in Pakistan, is rubbish. In fact, both countries have adjusted to playing a role in Pakistan. The US has never objected to China's role in Pakistan. And in fact, in the past, both countries have actually collaborated in making Pakistan going nuclear.
True.
So they never objected to the CPEC. They never once, when talking of connectivity, objected to it going through POK. They're not bothered about Gwadar. And now, after imposing sanctions on Chabahar, they're actually making life easier for Gwadar and China and CPEC. Even though they know that through Gwadar, potentially is going to become, they get a naval base in that region, China is able to increase its presence in the Gulf, in the very areas which United States wants to, in some ways, continue to dominate.
And maybe bypass that Malacca choke points which these people had, the Americans had. They're bypassing that also through Gwadar.
The Chinese are, that's right. So it actually is complicating the maritime security situation in the Indian Ocean. And yet they are unbothered. They're hitting us. Whereas the Chabahar doesn't create any security problems at all for the United States. It just gives us better access to Afghanistan and to Central Asia. And if at some stage it gets linked to the international North-South transport corridor, then it can get connected to Russia, but it's purely commercial thing.
So is Chabahar only about Iran, or it's more about India, or it's about both of us?
Both of us.
Both India and Iran. They're trying to hit both India and Iran through Chabahar.
Yeah. But it's less. After all, they have, look, on the nuclear issue and the sanctions that they have imposed on Iran and the snapback sanctions they've imposed again. They've got so much, and they've attacked militarily. Trump has attacked militarily the nuclear installations of Pakistan. Israel has attacked of Iran. Israel attacked Iran. So in terms of countering Iran, putting pressure on Iran, they are putting enormous pressure. Enormous pressure. They don't need Chabahar port as an important point of pressure. Actually, they're hurting India. Not really Iran. They're hurting India.
So that factor again comes into play, that the Modi government, I mean, we have to give it to them that they have displayed remarkable equanimity while facing this terrible, terrible disruptive diplomacy coming out from US and Trump in particular. But there is one fallout also, because if this keeps on repeating day in and day out and Indian economic interests getting hurt, I was reading somewhere during my student days in the history books that perhaps it was Dadabhai Nauroji, I will stand corrected if I'm wrong, that पेट पे लात मत मारो, पीठ पे भले ही कितने लात मारो. It was his economic drain theory of the British, that don't hurt somebody's earning. So if this keeps on escalating, now there's the actual risk of the Modi government having negative fallout over these policies. So where does this leave India in totality, sir? Can we only keep waiting and biding our time and hoping for this storm to blow over? Do we have levers over US?
You see, it's like this. It's how you interpret what is happening between India and the United States. There is no logical reason at all that India and US will become antagonistic to each other.
True.
And this antagonism will endure. How is it going to serve US interests at all? As it is, there is this feeling in the United States, in some circles, and not wrongly, that they have pushed Russia into the arms of China. Now, do they want also India, despite its reluctance, despite the fact that it's trying to moderate the anti-Western postures of Russia and China within BRICS, within the G20 also, within the SCO? Do they want us also push us into a situation where actually we will begin to subscribe to the anti-American agenda of BRICS and SCO, including de-dollarization? Not that we want it, but do they want us to be pushed in that direction? And then you have India, China, and Russia getting together. It's a nightmare for the United States. It is not realistic. And I don't think that it will reach a point where the relations will begin to crack up. The other is that America's lead in innovation in high-tech area, eh, they can't do without India. They can't. Their own sector, high-tech sector, is totally connected with India. It's not connected to anybody else. Who has it? Not with China, not with Europe, not with Russia, not with Africa, not with Latin America. It's primarily with India. So if they want to keep their lead in artificial intelligence and all the other advanced areas, who do they need to collaborate with? Who can then provide them the talent and the scale that they need? Where will they set up these global capability centers? Okay. They can't send
why
them in
this
China, they
madness,
can't
sir?
send them in Russia.
Sir, I'll keep a very fundamental question. When both the countries need each other, I mean, it's very important that both of us respect each other's space also. So why this madness over tariffs,
Look,
everything else?
we respect the US space. I mean, where have we at all
True, sir.
tried to constrict the US space? No, I'm
No,
just
we have
saying
not. We have not.
they are constricting our space.
True.
They are constricting our space. And it is just, as you mentioned earlier on, this hubris. It is real hubris. They sense India, they sense that, at the end of the day, they've taken the measure of India. India, at the end of the day, will come back to us no matter what, because there are complementarities, there are common interests. We can reverse our policy towards India and we can win back India. This is what Trump thinks. This is out of the deal. That you can have very hard and almost aggressive bargaining with the person on the other side, and at the end, when you strike a deal, you shake hands and embrace each other. I don't know what maybe he thinks this is part of the heart of the deal. And then I think they're also playing on the fact that there are within India large lobbies which actually want India-US relations to continue to be strong. Our big business, our IT companies, their interests are tied up. Our elite, look at almost everyone. I don't know almost everyone, but large number of our elite families have children who are in the United States. 350,000 students there. The best boys from our IT sector, from our IIT, they go there. The doctors want to get more opportunities there. The people-to-people contacts are very strong. Within our armed forces, there are those who are very positively inclined towards the United States. And in a democratic country like ours, where there is possibility for them to influence public opinion through the opposition, through the social media, through the NGOs, they think that they can handle us. So, in a sense, we are relatively vulnerable. We are not like China. And Modi is trying to do his level best to strengthen ourselves from within. And he's warning the United States that don't push me into choices that will be difficult for you, apart from being difficult for us. Look at the manner in which he has spoken about Russia recently, when he met the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia. He deliberately giving signals that we have a tried and tested partnership with Russia, which we'll maintain, which we'll expand. But to answer your question, it is Trump's totally erratic personality and the fact that there are sycophants around him. I mean, it was almost comical, that cabinet meeting in which one after another the cabinet members were flattering him. One even saying that, you're portrayed in front of the Ministry of Labor, as if they had seen, I don't know what, God incarnate. and what did this fellow Steve Witkoff or Lutnick was it? Yeah.
Witkoff, sir. Witkoff.
Witkoff said that, you are in history, you are the most eligible person for getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and the Norwegian committee should realize this.
And the rest were
I,
clapping. And the rest were clapping, sir, when he said this.
do you think it is edifying? It's the edifying image of the United States of America. Even it doesn't happen visibly even in China, where Xi Jinping controls everything.
So the only parallel is North Korea.
Well, North Korea also, yeah, in a sense, yes. Though, of course, we don't have a meeting which is covered by television and where
But
all of them are
whatever we
having. But
see.
yes, but you're right. You're right. So, but to come back to your question, I think the relationship will come back on track, not immediately, and there will be a scar left behind. India will be now very careful about putting too many eggs in the US basket, and will try to pursue policies which make us less dependent on the United States and explore other relationships, economic, political, technological, to the extent that we can. And the effort would be to focus on Europe, focus on Japan, focus on Australia, uh, because uh, these are the high consumption markets.
Mm.
And they provide tremendous trade opportunities. Europe has a lot of technology, a lot of technology, uh, except that it's not under one single political government.
Mm.
But they have it. They have tremendous, country like France and Britain, they have tremendous defense technologies too. We can cooperate with them in all the new areas of quantum and computing and quantum and critical technologies and everything else. We can do that. France is very, very advanced in innovative technologies. So that's an option. That's an option. So it's a difficult challenge that we are facing, but we've gone through even more difficult challenges in the past. And I think at the end of the day, even on the nuclear issue, the United States buckled after we went nuclear. They came back to us and
It's my
settled the.
personal belief that when a nation or a civilization is on the curve up, you have to face challenges and then overcome challenges. And that is what makes civilizations great.
Yeah, but yes, you're right. I mean, as a general proposition, you're right. But we are not genuinely, we're not rising in antagonism towards the West.
Truth.
See,
True.
China is rising in antagonism to the West on everything. They
But we are
openly
claiming
say,
our space,
we
sir.
don't share your values, we don't share your democracy. They have a totally different system of governance. It's not that in our case at all.
But we are
In
claiming
fact, there
our
are
space,
people.
sir. We are claiming our space. Maybe that is not acceptable to them. They want us to be subservient.
Yeah, but they tried for 300-400 years to make the rest of the world subservient. But look at what's happening today. They can't do that anymore. So they have to realize the limits of their own power. And you're right, except that countries like India have to be given their space and actually benefit from that by strengthening ties and creating a genuine mutuality of interest.
True.
But if the approach is that you have to bend to our will and you have to do what we ask you to do, they don't have the power any longer to do that. And now that the transatlantic alliance it has developed a serious rift in the past, after all, after the Second World War, why was there such a Western hegemony? Because of the transatlantic alliance. Europe and US were working together. Now they're not working together, and it won't be easy to rift that to uh, resolve the differences that have taken place or address that rift, and that'll weaken them. That'll weaken the G7. So they should see the writing on the wall and keep India on their side, which we are willing to, but without they telling us that you can't develop ties with Russia, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can't lead the global south. You can't say that the developing countries should have greater role in global governance and the UN must be reformed. And the realities of shifts of power today should actually get reflected in the working of international organizations. These are legitimate demands that are being made. If the mindset is half colonial still, then obviously there'll be problems down the road.
So we'll have to conclude on that note only with the optimistic belief that this too shall pass and things will take a better trajectory sooner rather than later. We can only wait and watch.
I agree.
Thank you for sparing time for us, sir. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much. It's always
My
such a pleasure and an honor.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All the
sir.
best.
Thank you.
Thank you.